Spent the night in Kingman, Arizona. I'm on my way to San Bernardino, California for the night. After an hour, I'm back in California. Colorado River looked pretty this morning, nice and calm. 5 miles into the state of California at exit 148 begins a drivable section of the original alignment into Needles, California at the California Gateway. Cardi's Camp opened in 1923 with cabins and selling gasoline, closed in 1971. There's a scene from The Grapes of Wrath filmed on its parking lot. 66 Motel opened in the 1940s. It struggled after I-40 opened around 1970. In 1990s, they turned them into apartments. The Palms Cabin Courts opened in the mid-1930s, changed its name several times and closed in 1997. Became apartments, and sometime during the pandemic in 2021, it closed for good. Just need to pause it and read about this wagon. The wagon is huge. A lot of these towns are getting ready for the 100th anniversary of Route 66. This was the El Garces Hotel that opened in 1908. It was a Harvey house, but closed in 1949, but remained railway offices until 1988 when it was abandoned. It was rescued by the city in 1999 and began an extensive renovation. Down the street is a couple of boxcars and a caboose for you to look at and take a picture. Sage Motel opened in 1955 and closed somewhere around 2000. Crossed back into Arizona to buy fuel, and on my way back across I had to take a picture of the Colorado. It sure is a pretty river. This was a Union 76 station that opened in the 1950s. It closed in the mid-70s when I-40 opened. Texaco closed in the 1970s also, but recently has been restored to its 1950 glory days. On the north end of town, Jim Nichols started building these monuments in 2010. They take effort to maintain, as the hot desert sun and wind destroy flags in 3 weeks' time. City Alliance is helping to maintain them. This is a California fan palm. It grows to 75 feet high and is the only native palm tree to California. General Store of Golfs opened in 1946, closed somewhere around 2000, was a landmark of Route 66, burned under suspicious circumstances in 2020. The one-room schoolhouse opened in Golfs, California in 1914, had a single teacher who taught 1st through 8th grade. After that, the kids had to go to Needles for any further education. Closed in 1937, now it's a museum. This is an operating replica of an American Boy 10-stamp mill used to crush gold ore. They rebuilt one and it's displayed outside. Horse-drawn road grader. Relics from the past. This 1940s bus broke down in 1984 and sat on the side of the road for 35 years. I guess you can see it became target practice. Slug bug. They had a lot of leftover mining equipment throughout the area. When the 7th Infantry trained here in 1942, they left behind a lot of military equipment. Very large collection of wire insulators from telephone poles. I was here just in time to see the cactus in bloom. This was a 1928 Graham truck. This was a 1921 Buick. The outhouse came from the Chase Baghdad mine. This is a replica of the Gulf Santa Fe Railway Depot built in 1902, demolished in 1956. These were the blades off of a 16-foot wind pump. It was capable of lifting 1,600 gallons of water an hour. This is the American Boy tin stamp mill. It has a great historical past going back to 1887 when it was manufactured in Chicago. Started at a mine in Helena, Montana. The meticulous restoration began in 2010 and finished in 2014. They crank it up once a month. It is massive. It stands over 20 feet tall. Nothing left of Fenner, California except the High Oasis filling station. It looks like an oasis. I just stopped to check the gas prices. Ouch. Glad I filled up in Arizona. The original alignment through Essex to Amboy has been closed since 2017 due to all the wooden bridges being washed out from flooding. Decided to ride down to Essex just to see the town. Not much left. Since Route 66 was closed, I took a 50-mile detour toward Amboy. 4 miles east of town stands this Chinese Guardian Lion. Definitely in the middle of the desert. No one knows where they came from, but they showed up around 2013, and there's a pair of them. This is a very lonely stretch of highway. Roy Croyle and his wife broke down here in 1924. He worked as a mechanic and a wife to help fix the car, but ended up staying, bought property, opened a garage, a cafe, and added cabins and called it Roy's. Eventually, his son-in-law Buster took it over. In 1989, Buster retired and leased it to his partner. He defaulted on the loan. Finally, in 2005, the whole town was sold for $425,000 to Albert Okura. He restored the cafe, the neon sign, and the service station and reopened in 2008. He died sadly in 2023, and the future of this place is in doubt. 2 miles to the west of town is an extinct volcano with a 3.5-mile trail that you can actually hike down into the crater. The first building when you come into Ludlow, California is the remains of the post office and a motel. Across the street, what's left of the Union 76 station that probably opened in the 1950s. Ludlow Cafe opened in 1971, still open, has a lot of mining equipment out front. Gas station next door is closed, but it has a very large insulator for transmission lines. This was originally the Sidewinder Cafe. A movie in 1987 called Baghdad Cafe uses as a backdrop. It soon adopted the name. It no longer serves food, but it's more of a tourist stop now. Henning Motel closed in the 1970s. All that's left is its sign. This was originally the Cliff House, built in the 1920s. It was a service station. Not sure what it is now. This was a California agricultural inspection station that was open from 1953 to 1967. All vehicles were stopped, inspected for fruit to prevent diseased fruit from entering the state. This house in Daggett, California was built in the early 1920s. The roof shape is a bochka roof, Russian for barrel. Next door is Mugwump's service station. Not sure what it is, but I like saying Mugwump's. This is Alf's blacksmith shop. Dating back to 1884, this wooden structure was where the large wagons used to haul out the borax from Death Valley were built. This concrete building replaced the wooden one that burned down in 1908. Used to sell shell gas, but it's still open as a market. The wood building was built in 1908 after the fire. It was the Thistle General Store. The building to the right that was built in 1883 was the 2-story stone hotel made of wood. It burned to the ground in 1908. They replaced it as a single-story brick building, and it was at one time the only hotel in town. Just need to pause and read this. When they put the building here, I was really surprised how close to the street they really put it. I made it to Barstow, California, and the terminus end of Interstate 40. The Cactus Motel opened in the early 1950s. It has the original sign and it's still open. Across the street is the Stardust Inn. Not sure when it opened, but it sure has a cool sign and it's still open. A lot of murals on the side of buildings throughout town. This one is dedicated to Route 66 and even has the lyrics to Get Your Kicks on Route 66 on a scroll. Just have to pause and read it. Dusty Rusty is in the lower right corner. I would hate to be riding that car. I don't trust their brakes. The Roy's Cafe in Barstow opened in 2017. It's also owned by Albert Okura, who also owns the town of Amboy, who recently died in 2023. The El Rancho Motel had a storied past. It was built in 1947 with railroad ties, or sleepers. Started off with 50 rooms, eventually ended up with 150 rooms. It closed in 1979, restored and reopened in 87, closed again in 91, opened again in 94, and appeared to still be open when I was there. Sad to say, it burned 2 months later in July of 2022. The only thing that remains is a vacant field and this iconic sign. Opened in the mid-50s, the Village Motel and Cafe sign looks a little worse for wear. Motel closed, but the cafe is still open. Another of many Route 66 monuments in Barstow. I was sad the Route 66 Museum in Barstow was closed for Mother's Day, but the Railroad Museum was open. A lot of restored train cars and railroad engines to look at. The Harvey House Casa del Desierto, or House of the Desert, opened in 1911. It's one of the last of the Harvey houses to close in 1971. You can also walk through the lobby of this one also. The Train Engineer Simulator was, of course, broken. I couldn't play. Lots of handles and switches to play with. This is part of the braking simulator. Not sure how old this manual typewriter is, but I've seen them before. While I was inside the museum, the winds created this sandstorm. I was not happy driving my motorcycle into it. After about 15 minutes, the sand clouds settled and I rode up to Tom's Welding and Machine Shop. This is an operating shop, wish it was open, but they have an historical collection of signs and have made a time capsule of the past. In the background, you can see the sandstorm blowing away. I'm glad I didn't need a sandblasted motorcycle. The Route 66 Motel opened in 1922 and it's still open. Next door, this hotel opened in 1949 as the Holland Motel, changed its name sometime after 2000 to the Torches. I love the murals of the states of Route 66 on the foreground. I know there's a story behind this sign, I just haven't found it. But it is kind of quirky. I liked it. This building was built in 1926 and housed the Burden Store. They sold gasoline and also was the Helendale, California post office. This was the site of Watson's Polygas. The building's long gone, but the sign survived. George Siebert opened the Sagebrush Inn and Gas Station in 1930. In 1934, next door he added a bar, cafe, and dance hall. The bar was 36 feet long. The inn is now a residence. Elmer Long started building the Bottle Tree Ranch in 2000 after he inherited his father's bottle collection. Sitting on almost 2 acres are over 400 handmade steel trees. Elmer passed on in 2019 at the age of 72, but his forest lives on. Next door, built in 1931, was Potovov's service station. It was torn down in 2007, but the Joshua Tree has survived. In Oro Grande, I made a side trip to Roy Rogers Ranch. He was known as the King of the Cowboys, and his wife, Dale Evans, was known as Queen of the Cowgirls. They made musical westerns together, and in 1965 bought this ranch. After his death in 98, it changed hands several times. It's still an active ranch, wedding venue, and also a movie set. Just up the road is another building with a storied past. In the 1890s, this was a Butterfield stage stop and trading post. Took on its current look in 1931, was a Case dealership, was the Lost Hog Bar, now it's the Iron Hog Saloon, a bar and restaurant. This huge cement plant began operations in 1910 and still very active. Oro Grande Route 66 Auto Courts opened in the 1930s, became apartments in the 90s, and is currently closed. The Mohawk Mini Mart opened in 1932, probably closed somewhere before 1980. It's been abandoned since. I love these murals. The building itself dates back to 1920. Time to move on past Oro Grande. This is a Baltimore Truss Bridge built in 1930 over the Mojave River. It's 575 feet long and 34 feet wide. It's known as the Victorville Route 66 Bridge. This restaurant opened up in 1947 as Emma Jean's Cafe and Truck Stop. In 1979, they renamed it Emma Jean's Hollenberger Cafe. They closed it too, so I missed my chance for a Hollenberger. The Route 66 Museum in Victorville, California opened up in 1995. This is a real gem of a museum, and they pack a lot of information and a lot of stuff in a small room. I just had to get my picture made in this VW bus. An interesting mini jukebox. Don't see many pumps with the original glass tops on them. Looked like it was ready to crank and climb in and drive it. My wife's aunt once worked at a switchboard like this in her teenage years. This was a very nicely restored teardrop trailer. I don't think I would have wanted to spend my life in a camper this size. First time I've ever seen one of these oscilloscopes. Understand it was made sometime in the late 1950s. The one on the left was built in 1950. The one on the right, I think, is a 1940s Maytag. There was a story on the door of this outhouse about how they acquired it. I should have took a picture of it because it was funny. Signs of the past. George Air Force Base closed in 1992. It was an F-4 base. I love these gateway arches in a lot of these towns. The Green Spot Motel opened in 1937 and remains open. It was also utilized when they filmed the movie Citizen Kane. The new Corral Motel opened in 1953 and it is still open. Had to stop at the Death Valley Harley Davidson so I could get a challenge chip. Starting my way down the pass into San Bernardino. This is the last of the stone guardrails built in the early 1930s. This opened in the early 50s, became the Lido in 1960, and is now closed. The Mount Vernon Motel opened in the 1930s, now it's apartments. The first McDonald's restaurant was built on this site in 1948. They tore that building down. Albert Okura, who also bought the town of Amboy, bought the property, built a museum, and opened it up in 1998. I had 30 minutes to race through this museum, so I took a lot of pictures. This was a nostalgic look at childhood of anyone who has ever grown up eating at McDonald's. The life-size characters of McDonald's just screamed, "Take my picture." They had several items that were used in the movie The Founder, the Ray Kroc story. It's not a love story about the McDonald brothers and Ray Kroc. It tells you the down and dirty of how it became what it is today, McDonald's. In a lot of display cases, they probably had every McDonald's Happy Meal toy that they ever gave away in any McDonald's. If you ever were a kid, had a kid, or a grandkid, you've made several loops around this little ride. The hardest part was getting the kids to get off of it. The old menu and the old pictures really tell a story. Part of the original sign was saved before they destroyed the building in 1972, and they incorporated it into the new sign. The exterior of this building has the most detailed mural of anything I've ever seen. Details the history of San Bernardino and all the way into Los Angeles. Found it interesting they had Scooby-Doo's van parked out in the rear. Found it interesting we had Fred Flintstone's car sitting outside too. The original train station in San Bernardino opened in 1886, but burned down in 1916. They rebuilt it and opened it in 1918. Also had a Harvey House restaurant that closed in 1950. It still operates as a train station. San Bernardino Motel opened in 1960 and is still open. My motel for the night, the Wigwam in San Bernardino. These were built in 1949 and are still used today because I'm staying in one. Love the British phone booth. This home in Fontana is reputed to be Al Capone's hideout, also known as Scarface. Oh boy, meatloaf for dinner. I was truly amazed at how much room I had inside of this wigwam. Even had room for a couch. Love the shape of the mirror. Riding to the end of Route 66 today. Whoever said it didn't rain in Southern California is wrong, because it sure was raining this morning. The Rancho Cucamonga station opened in 1915, 11 years before Route 66 was established. Closed in 1972. The city saved it in 2009, and the restoration began in 2013. It opened in 2015 as a Route 66 museum. This is called the Mother Road Bridge. It's a pedestrian bridge. This is a Rails to Trails project that turned train tracks into pedestrian trails for bikes and people. The Sycamore Inn opened in 1848 and was a Butterfield Overland stagecoach stop. Had a fire in 1920, so this building was built in its place. It's still open as a steakhouse. McDonald's installed arches on all their new buildings from 1953 to the mid-60s, and then they eliminated the arches. This one in Upland, California, built in 1995, went retro and put arches on them. Also, it's drive-through only. The Madonna of the Trails, dedicated February of 1929, is one of 12 placed in states that is crossed by the National Old Trails. She holds a baby in her left, a rifle in her right. The child clings to her. It symbolizes the courage of the pioneer women who stood by their families and helped tame the West. The Grove Theater, opened in 1947, was renovated in 1990. It seats 831 and is still open. Mary Wolfe started this business in 1917. They moved to this location about 1932. It's still open and being operated by the fourth generation. This building was built in 1923 using river rock. The original company provided spray oil for citrus ranchers to spray their crops, a garage, now a florist. This was originally Tugboat Annie's Seafood, opened in the late 60s. Later became the original Shrimp House. Now it's a sushi restaurant. This service station in Pomona opened around 1965. It lost its pumps, still a garage, has the original fluorescent tube lights. The Pomona Fox Theater opened in 1931 and could seat 1,750 people. Closed in 1976. The city acquired it in 2002, renovated it, and opened again in 2009, and they utilize it for live music events and private parties. In Laverne, California, there's been somebody selling food from this spot since the 1920s. The La Paloma opened in 1966 and is still going strong. I have no idea when this McDonald's was built in Laverne. It also has the golden arches. Looks like a fairly new building. Mr. D's opened in 2014. It's a retro diner of the 50s and seemed to be doing a great business. Also, the rain is back. The Walker House in San Dimas was built in 1887 as a hotel, but due to a land bust, it never had a guest, so it was sold to James Walker in 1889. Stayed in the family. One of the relatives leased it in 1979 as a restaurant, but that closed in the 80s. The city acquired it in 2000, renovated it, and it now houses the San Dimas Historical Society and Museum. The original train station was built in 1889 but burned down in 1933. This replacement was used until 1961. It's been restored and now houses the Pacific Railroad Society. The Pinnacle Peak Steakhouse opened in 1967. They have a rule: no ties allowed. If you wear a tie in there and don't promptly remove it, they will cut it off and hang it from the rafters, and there are a lot of ties hanging from the rafters. The Golden Spur restaurant in Glendora, California was open for 100 years but closed in 2019. It was bought by Easter Seals. They plan on leaving the sign up. I'm glad they did. The Altadena Dairy Drive-In opened in 1937. It's one of the oldest businesses in Glendora, California. This vintage building was opened in 1950 as a gas station, and it's still part of one today. This business opened up in the 1960s and is still going strong. I understand the pastrami is awesome. I was sad they haven't opened up yet. The Azusa, California Drive-In Theater opened in 1961 but closed at the end of 2001. It could fit over 1,500 cars, and when it closed, it was the last drive-in theater west of Oklahoma. The Azusa Pacific University owned the property, took down the screens, but still utilized the signs. The Azusa Civic Center started with the construction of the library in 1904. In 1928, they finished City Hall and a municipal auditorium. By 1945, they finally finished the fire department headquarters, and it's all facing Route 66. Very lovely facility, great landscaping. It's one of those original Route 66 diners. It was called Corky's Place, but closed somewhere around 2015. When Route 66 was established in 1926, most of this was farmland and orchards. You can't tell one city line from another now unless you see the sign. Glad I had a rain suit. Hoping this all clears up before I get to the coast. This Altadena Drive-In Dairy in Duarte, California was open when I was there, but I think the building is up for sale. Nice statue of the city's namesake. This one opened up in the 1930s as the Yearling Motel. It's changed names several times. It was for sale in 2022. The Oak Park Motel in Monrovia opened in the 1950s and is still open today. This was the Monrovia service station, opened in 1926. In 1942, the pumps were removed so they could make military equipment during World War II. In 1945, it was bought by Halliburton. Have no idea who's working it now. The Scoti's Flying A service station opened in the early 1920s. It changed hands several times over the years, but finally ended its life as a service station in 1987. The owner that had it was planning on making a museum, but he died in 2019, so I don't know what's going to happen next. The Harding Courts were built in the early 20s, remodeled in 2002 and sold as private apartments. 11 Oaks was built as a classic hotel in 1911 for $40,000. In 1984, the owner turned it into assisted living quarters for elderly people. They have 36 residents. Would have liked to have gotten my picture made with Mark Twain. Aztec Motel was the first structure utilizing ancient Maya art motifs. Opened in 1925. It was restored in 2000. The restaurant and bar are open. They're still remodifying the rooms. This McDonald's in Montovia has one of the last 1962 designed Strike M signs in existence. The one they had on the side of the building was removed when they remodeled it in 2017. In one form or fashion, the Derby restaurant opened in 1922, closed in 23, and recently has been demolished for new construction. This restaurant was built in 1967 for the Vandekamps Restaurant and Bakery. In 1987, the city passed a code stopping the turning of the blades. Vandekamp went broke in 1990. Denny's bought the restaurant with the non-turning blades and refurbished them in 2013. In 2016, the city rescinded the ordinance and allowed the blades to turn. In 2017, they fell off, but recently have been restored again. Since we're across the street from the Santa Anita racetrack, there's all these horseshoes embedded in the concrete honoring horses and jockeys. Rod's Grill has been serving meals since 1957, including breakfast all day, and they're still open. Santa Anita Racetrack opened in 1934 for horse racing. In 1942, it became the Santa Anita Assembly Center for Japanese American U.S. citizens, one of 18 throughout the country. Over 18,000 were detained and then shipped throughout the country to permanent locations. George Takei from Star Trek fame also was sent from here to Arkansas to Jerome. After the Japanese Americans were moved out, it became a POW camp for thousands of German prisoners from northern Africa. After World War II ended, horse racing began again. I've made it to Pasadena and Colorado Boulevard. Posada Motel opened in 1959 and is still open. The Highway Host opened up in 1957 and is still open. Looking down Colorado Boulevard, I love the palm trees. The Ace Motel opened up in 1956 and it's also still open. With a space-age look, the Pasadena Astro Motel opened up in 1959 and it's still open. Opening up next door in 1960 was the Hyatt Chalet Lodge. Now it's called the La Casa Inn and still open. The Cameron Seafood Market and Restaurant opened in 1984, closed in 2021 due to COVID and the owner retiring. Not really sure why I took pictures of this building other than its odd shape and design. Saga Motor Hotel opened in 1959, has a great sign, and also you can walk right out the front door and watch the Rose Bowl parade go right by. This is Foothill Boulevard, Milestone 11. It's 11 miles to the LA County Courthouse. This is the only remaining marker on the Colorado Foothills route. This building was built by a car dealer in 1927 using a 17th century Spanish design. He didn't stay long, and the building is still for lease. This is Pasadena's World War I Memorial Flagpole, dedicated in 1927 and honors all the Pasadena veterans that fought in World War I. Also has the names of those who died. It's at the corner of Orange Grove and Colorado Boulevards. Just around the corner is the Gamble House. It was built in 1908 for David Gamble, son of James Gamble, co-founder of Procter & Gamble. It's now a museum and open for tours. Being Sunday afternoon and no football in town, I figured it'd be a good day to go out and check the Rose Bowl. I was wrong. Today was the monthly flea market. At least there was no one around the Jackie Robinson statue. Most people remember him for his baseball heroics, but he also had a storied football career in college. The statistics will bear this out. I didn't have much trouble finding someone to take my picture. I went went over it, then came back under the Colorado Street Bridge. It's built in 1913, almost 1,500 feet long, and stands 150 feet above the Arroyo Seco, or dry stream. It's also known as the Suicide Bridge, as more than 100 people have jumped to their deaths. They've installed 10-foot fences to try to keep people from jumping. Built in 1903, the Vista del Arroyo Hotel was a luxurious place to stay. In 1943, the U.S. government acquired it and converted it into an Army hospital. After the war, it stayed in government hands, converting it to a branch of the U.S. Court of Appeals. In 1985, it was named the Richard H. Chambers Courthouse. William Wrigley, the chewing gum magnate, bought this mansion in 1914. The family gifted it to the city of Pasadena in 1958. It became the Tournament of Roses headquarters. It is affectionately known as the Tournament House. Los Angeles is full of artwork. This is called A Fork in the Road. Gus's Barbecue in South Pasadena has been open since 1946. They cook their barbecue over pecan logs. Have a great neon sign. On the corner, it opened in 1915 as the South Pasadena Pharmacy. In the 1990s, it was refurbed and became the Fair Oaks Pharmacy and Soda Fountain, as the original soda fountain plus vintage interior. Known as the Century House, it was built back in 1888. It was also the location of the 1978 movie Halloween. Because of sightseers, the building was moved here from its original location in town. The Meridian Iron Works in South Pasadena was built around 1890. Now a museum, it has a collection of artifacts that portray the history of the region. The historic Rialto Theater was built in 1925. The theater could seat 1,200 people. It suffered two fires, one in the 30s and another one in 1968. Almost torn down, but was put on the National Register of Historic Places in 1978. Closed for good in 2007. As it's supposedly haunted, the ghosts that inhabit it must be delighted. This is the East Gate of New Chinatown that was created in the 1940s. It's also been used in many scenes of movies. Today it was rather quiet. Looking west down Broadway, you can see the tall building that is Los Angeles' City Hall. These twin dragons are officially known as the Chinatown Gateway Monument, but most people refer to them as the Chinatown Dragons. They were installed in 2001. They are between 35 and 40 feet long, but if they were straightened out, each would be measuring 70 feet. Dragons are mounted on an 80-foot wide steel framework 43 feet above Broadway. Los Angeles City Hall was built in 1928, dominates the skyline, and is used as a backdrop for many movies and TV shows. Slowly making my way down South Broadway toward the Theater District. This is the Theater District. Most of these buildings were built between 1910 and 1931. Some have been refurbished. Most have been converted into commercial businesses. I'm at 7th and South Broadway, the original terminus of Route 66. There are also three other places that are also considered a terminus of Route 66, and I'm on my way to check them out after I get my pictures taken. Paradise Motel opened in 1946 and is still open. Up Sunset Boulevard is the Olive Motel. It also opened in 1946 and is still open. I stopped at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery to visit some famous people's graves. The first one was Judy Garland's. For over 60 years, Mel Blanc was the voice of over 1,000 characters like Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, but his famous line of Porky Pig, "That's all, folks," was probably the most remembered. Estelle Getty was best known as Sophia on The Golden Girls. She played Maude's mother. Not sure who the pyramid belongs to, but the porthole is facing east. This is the grave of Cecil B. DeMille and his wife. He was a director of major movies like The Ten Commandments, Cleopatra, Samson and Delilah. I was impressed on how simple it was. Paramount Pictures movie lot backs up to the cemetery. I rode around the block to the Melrose Gate. It was open, so I went up and took some pictures. Just up the street, I got my first view of the Hollywood sign. Famous landmark is the Hollywood and Vine intersection. Looks like a large crowd on Hollywood Boulevard. A first star put down in the Hollywood Walk of Fame was in February 1960. As of 7 April 2025, there's 2,807. I didn't have time to look at all of them. Hard Rock Cafe looked pretty popular today. I'm glad it finally cleared off and turned out to be a beautiful day. In front of Grumman's Chinese Theater are foot and handprints of famous actors. I looked at John Wayne's, John Travolta's. I was really surprised to see how small a boot print John Wayne had. Found my way to a balcony where I had a clear shot of the Hollywood sign. Yep, it's a long way up there. Wish I had a little more time in town to go up there a lot closer. This is a classic example of Gucci architecture. Built in 1965, the roof looks like a spacecraft lifting off. I love the streets of Beverly Hills lined with these tall palm trees. One of the famous Beverly Hills signs. Rodale Drive, full of high-end shops, boutiques, and jewelry stores. I don't think there's any bargain basement establishments on this block. Even the flower beds look expensive. Even their shrubs are large and shaped. The Beverly Hills Hotel opened in 1912. Most of the time, all you ever see is this part of the building. The rest of it in 1948 was painted pink. Placed in 1952, a plaque designating this as the end of the Will Rogers Highway is located in Palisades Park at the corner of Ocean Avenue and Santa Monica Boulevard. It's a very lovely place to end. Santa Monica Pier is in sight. In 1936, when the DOT decided to extend Route 66 from the downtown terminating point at 7th and Broadway, US 66 was realigned along Sunset and Santa Monica Boulevards, all the way to Santa Monica. But it did not end on Ocean Avenue. Instead, it took a left along Lincoln Boulevard and continued on up to Olympic Boulevard, where at their intersections it ended. So from 1936 to 1964, this was the end of Route 66. The Mother Road ended here and never reached Santa Monica Pier or Ocean Avenue. It was the end of the road until 1964, when it was decommissioned in this area, moving to the Arizona state line in Topak. Fittingly, Mel's Drive-In is across the street with a penguin. In the back corner of their parking lot is this nice mural to take a picture. I still had one more place to stop. A couple of blocks away is Santa Monica Pier. I was getting excited as I walked down to the pier. This sign was erected during the pier centennial year on Veterans Day in 2009. It formalized the notion held by the general public that Route 66 actually ended on the pier, therefore designating Santa Monica Pier as the west coast end to Route 66. Also, the DOT had no more say in the matter. All that's left to do is take some pictures of the ocean, hop on my bike, and ride to the house. There's just something soothing about listening to the waves and watching them roll in. Time to say goodbye to Santa Monica and start my way home. Stopped at In-N-Out on my way out of town. Saw this cell tower made to look like a palm tree. I loved it. Spent the night in Needles, California. Currently on my way to the Grand Canyon in Arizona. Had a very bright, clear day to visit the canyon today. It's 7,700 feet at the rim of the canyon, so it was very cool today. My leathers felt very nice. I love the panoramic view. If you look dead center, there's a green spot. That is the Phantom Ranch, and it's 10 miles from the Bright Angel Trailhead. It's a very long ways down there. Green spot on this one is Indian Gardens, and it's 4.5 miles from the trailhead at Bright Angel. A little closer shot of the Phantom Ranch. Perspective of size, where those people are standing, it's 18 miles to the north rim. If you take the trail, it's 24 miles. It's still a long ways over there. And if you drive your car, it's 212 miles. Typical of the high desert, it started getting hot. In 1995, I ran a rim to rim to rim, 42 miles of the Bright Angel Trail. I don't think I'm ready to do that today. On the far point is the Bright Angel Lodge. It was built in 1935, and it was built to blend in with the surroundings. Built in 1905, the Hopi House has been offering authentic American Indian arts and crafts. The building itself is also a piece of art. Time to get back on the road. Stopped at the Grand Canyon Harley Davidson to pick up a chip. Being Monday, they were closed. I love their muffler tree though. At 12,633 feet, Humphreys Peak, northwest of Flagstaff, is the tallest mountain in Arizona. All downhill from here. Twin Arrows Trading Post opened in 1945, but closed in 1990. Reopened briefly in 1995, closed for good. The arrows made from telephone poles were restored in 2009, but one has fallen down. The trading post itself is a target of graffiti. Two Guns had a lot of stuff, including a zoo with mountain lions. I think it was opened in the 1930s. Not a lot of real definitive information on which building was what. The bridge was built in 1915 over the Canyon Diablo Gorge. It's 146 feet long and still being used by local traffic. It became a part of Route 66 in 1926 and was bypassed in 1938. This was the old trading post that was operating from 1915 to 1926. These structures are part of the Apache Death Caves. There's a legend about it, but I'm not too sure if it's true or not. This is a shell of a shell station. Not sure when it opened or closed. Still running into a lot of dead ends on Route 66. This is Meteor City. The geodesic dome is 60 feet in diameter, and it was built in the late 1960s. This was a trading post. At one time, they had an L-shaped map claiming to be the world's longest Route 66 map that was painted by Bob Waldmeyer. Closed in 2012 with an uncertain future. I'm approaching the town of Lumpton, Arizona. Fixing to end my journey in Arizona and fixing to spend the night in Gallup, New Mexico. I've had a great day and stopped at all the places I missed on the way out. On my way to Elk City, Oklahoma for the night. Rehoboth has an interesting sign. This is Pyramid Rock. Early morning sun really brings out the colors. I always knew we were getting close to Gallup when we saw these red sandstone cliffs. This is called Navajo Church. What a beautiful morning to be out riding. Fort Wingate was established after the Civil War. It's been used as an army depot, and during World War II, this is where they trained the code talkers. General Douglas MacArthur lived here as a child in the 1880s when his father was commanding the 13th Infantry. Dynamite that was stored here was sent to White Sands to help develop the atomic bomb for World War II. Haven't seen one of these fallout shelter signs in a long time. Remained a munitions storage until 1992. Then it was transferred to federal trust for the Navajo and Zuni nations. This is such a beautiful part of the country. I always wonder how they figure which way the water's going to flow when you're looking at a flat piece of land around these signs. The remains of a 1920s gas station. Go right to begin, Route 66. Go left and it's a dead end. Still some awesome beauty in the background. The Wayne Brothers gas station and motel opened probably in the 1930s, but closed in 1985 when the company went out of business. Yes, I had to ride to the end of Route 66, turn around and go back the other way. Interesting old tractor and buckboard wagon on the side of the road. There was this painted Continental Divide sign that our mission groups used to get our pictures made since 1994. It's missing. I missed it too. Just like Route 66, many things of the past just disappear. Say goodbye to the memories and start my way on home. Part of this building was a cafe operating on the original alignment of Route 66 in downtown Thoreau from 1926 to 1937. When Route 66 was realigned to this spot, they moved the building and opened it as a cafe and bar. The market and the deli was added later. Both of them seem closed. The Blue Water Motel in Blue Water, New Mexico opened in 1957 but closed in 1973 when it was bypassed by Interstate 40. It was right across the street from a uranium processing plant. This was a deep rock service station operating in Milan, New Mexico, probably closed when Interstate 40 opened. The Milan Motel opened in 1946 as a 12-unit log cabin style motel. They also sold gas. They survived through the uranium bust of the 60s, the bypassing of Route 66 by I-40, and the uranium boom during the 70s. The Kachina Country Trading Post was added in 1961. The neon sign installed in 1963 is still standing. The motel section closed in 1980. I had to stop at Grants, New Mexico, Route 66 drive-through sign. I love it. With the threat of thunderstorms, I'm making tracks. I've always loved this view looking west just past 9 Mile Hill just before I got to Albuquerque. It's late afternoon and hot in Tucumcari, so after getting some fuel, I had to have a chocolate shake at Sonic. My last stop was Russell's Filling Station Museum in Glen Rio, New Mexico. This desert rose-colored 1957 Thunderbird is being guarded by Yoda, being cheered on by Betty Boop, and being sung to by Elvis. Great collection of Coca-Cola boxes and memorabilia. Great looking 1951 Ford Flathead. This is a 1958 Chevy Impala with triple deuces, 348 cubic inch engine, and 315 horsepower. This was the 15th Corvette to roll off the assembly line in 1955. It is immaculate. The spec sheet tells a great story. It was also the first year for a V8 engine. Next to it was this beautiful two-tone 1959 Corvette with a 283 4-speed. This is a horse-drawn 1903 Studebaker fuel tanker. I noticed he's sitting on part of the fuel tank. This is a 1925 Ford Model TT fuel delivery tanker. The sign says it all about Fords. Haven't seen prices like this in a long time. Great looking jute boxes, plus the neon. The 2002 Corvette Z06, 6-speed, 715 horses. 1965 Ford Mustang convertible being driven by a polar bear. 2008 Shelby GT 500 Mustang. Can't buy stamps like this anymore. I Love Lucy collector dolls. Lucy and Ethel, Season 2, Episode 1, working in the chocolate factory assembly line. This is a 1960 Harley 74 Panhead made into a chopper. This is a Harley 1942 WLA built for the Army. Definitely not a stock color or seat. This is a 1975 Honda GL1000. It was the first year for a Gold Wing. I owned a 1978. They were great machines. This is a 1927 Model T Ford, 177 cubic inch engine, 2-speed transmission, ran on gas, kerosene, or ethanol. Original sale price, $360. Nice old gas pump, and they even had the lights on. Getting closer to home. Spent the night in Elk City, Oklahoma. Went to dinner in the Prairie Fire Grill, which is in the old train station. Had the special chicken fried steak. I knew I was in oil country when I had this large framed picture over my bed. I'm glad I made it to Elk City. There was hail in Texas just to the west of us, and the rains blew sideways for over 3 hours last night. I'm glad the owners let us park our motorcycles underneath the awning out front. I'm always happy when I see the state line sign. The motorcycle shows a nearly 4,000-mile trip in 11 days can look pretty dirty. So after this trip, you say, what's next? So in August of 22, I packed my tent and tent camped to South Dakota and the Sturgis Rally. I rode the Black Hills, parked on Main Street, and I rode the demo bikes. So what could I do to top that? Pack the Corvette with my wife and ride from Chicago to Santa Monica Pier. So let's go.